me tweet that I'm live. What up, Kev? Hey, Alec. What up, Alec? I appreciate the raid. Thanks, y'all. This is going to be a stream because I have some thoughts. Matter of fact, I will give me 2 seconds. I want to get a LaCroix just so that my throat doesn't get dry because I'm going to be talking this stream a lot. I'm going to be talking a lot this stream. We're going to be looking at a lot of stuff. Just give me 2 seconds. I promise I'll be right back. Thanks again to Alec for the raid. I appreciate you, my dude. And thank you, DC Metal Chris. And of course, you know the vibes, Chris. If you want to drop any news stuff that you think I might find interesting in here for us to talk about, please be my guest. I might not cover it till the very end of the stream because, like I said, I've got like a week's worth of shit to say. But yeah. We'll just let this track play out for a minute. I'm also assembling some materials because there's some tweets that I would like to look at. So I actually was already affiliate, Kev. I terminated my affiliate contract. And the reason why I did that was because Twitch discovery is extremely poor, like extraordinarily poor, in comparison to platforms like YouTube and Facebook. So, that being said, the fact that one of the terms of affiliate is the fact that you're like, it's a breach of contract to multi-stream. That wasn't a good enough trade-off for me to like have emotes and bits and subs, a bunch of shit that Amazon is going to take 50% of off top, regardless, is going to hit me over the head with a 50% surcharge for or whatever, regardless. So the trade-off wasn't really there for me, especially when I have a Streamlabs set up where if people want to give me money, you could go to endlesscemetery.com and tip any amount of money that you would like, and I'd get, 100%, not 100% because PayPal takes their cut, but it's not 50%. Yeah, Kev. Yeah, for other people, if Twitch is their thing, that's cool. They want to really go all in on Twitch, that's cool. I don't really hate on that, but for me personally, with what I'm trying to accomplish, Twitch is not really the wave for me. And the whole C word fiasco has just demonstrated that to me more so than anything else that I might have had complaints about on that platform. It should be fairly obvious that Twitch is concerned with making Twitch money. Um, which, like, makes sense because the thing about that is that Amazon, in the grand scheme of things, does not make a whole lot of money off of Twitch. So the instant, like, people have put a lot of stock and a lot of faith in this site, but the instant that this shit becomes unprofitable for Amazon, they will dead this server tomorrow. They already have shitty, like, extremely shitty, I can't think of the word, but like the VODs. Imagine if YouTube got rid of your fucking YouTube videos after 2 weeks or whatever. It'd be one of the shittiest sites, right? But your VODs on Twitch go bye-bye after 14 days, and it's just kind of like, eh. Even though we know they're keeping that shit on the back end for who God knows how long, because people are getting DMCA'd for clips for VODs that they thought they deleted years ago. But hey. Twitch is a terrible platform, so multi-streaming is a great option. You should take advantage of it. Yeah, for sure, Kev. Yeah. And I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get into this now, as well, since I was gonna try to wait for a little bit bigger audience, but the people that are here now are people I fuck with heavy. I fuck with you, Alec, heavy. I fuck with you, Kevin, heavy. So I'm gonna just go ahead and get into it. And obviously, Chris. I tweeted. Let me make sure. Let me hold on. Let me make sure my mod knows I'm live too, because I forgot to let him know. You might also notice the Baltimore County flag behind me. That is literally the official flag of the county that I'm from. And it's based as fuck. You might have noticed. I have no idea how that flag got approved, but the instant that I saw that that was the flag for Baltimore County, I knew I had to own it. So, I want to talk today. Today being Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I want to talk about white liberalism and like liberalism in general, and a concept that I have kind of uh, been playing with since I got in touch, or not really in touch, but like since I started paying attention to some of Black Bloc politics content on TikTok, which is white leftists who are more white than leftist. So we'll get into that. I'm gonna have to preface that conversation with the notion that when we're talking about whiteness here, we're talking about ideological whiteness, which is specifically American in nature. But beyond that, it's going to kind of dovetail with the conversation about platforming that continues to be had, because for whatever reason, people like literally cannot fucking stop platforming Nazis and like thinking that they're doing anything other than legitimizing those people with their actions. But also I want to talk about that, all that in total, and tie that back into my experience. So like if you're a theory wonk, there might be some theory here just because I'm tangentially familiar with theory. There's not going to be a whole lot of theory here. It's literally just going to be a lot of anecdotes from me. So if that's not valuable to you, whatever. If you can see the value in me being politically and culturally aware of my position in life and having the wherewithal to share my experiences through that lens, cool. Glad you're here. So I'm going to start off on that note with a simple quote. So I was saying there's not going to be a whole lot of theory. Hold on, because I didn't finish texting. Sorry. So I'm gonna start this off. I'm gonna set this with a also shout out to Big Richard Lizardman for the $36 tip for the reparations. I appreciate that. You know that you are my brother and my homie, and I love you. So we're gonna set this off with a simple quote. It's a short one that is from a book from the French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. Um, from a book titled Anti-Semite and Jew, which I think should be required reading for anyone who wants to get involved in the debate side of Twitch. But let's check out what he said really quick. It's real short. The quote here is, "If the Jew did not exist, the anti-Semite would invent him." That's very important. So, let me look up some tweets really quick too, because there's some other stuff I want to talk about. So I say that to say this. I guess I'll start off with the whole platforming angle, because I have some gripes. I'm sure you all are familiar with Stardust. I have had some interactions with Stardust. I officially unfollowed Stardust a couple of days ago. I'm still subscribed to Stardust, I think, but needless to say, I will not be renewing my subscription to Stardust's channel. And before I really get into any of a lot of this stuff, I should also say that when you're pointing fingers, right, you got three fingers pointed back at you naturally. So I got to lead this off with saying that I'm going to be name drop Star Sus. Yeah, I'm going to be name dropping some people in this conversation. Now, the accusation of clout chaser is something that I've seen thrown out frequently, and in a lot of areas in this space is not totally unjustified. I will say that in my case, though, if I were seeking clout, I'd probably just do what a lot of people in this space do, which is pretend to be people's friends, right? I feel like making enemies is not really the best way to go about acquiring fame. You might acquire infamy that way, but that's not necessarily the type of attention that you want, especially in a platform that's notorious for shit like brigading and that type of shit, which I'll get back to because I have something very important to say about that too. But with that said, I have to explain why. What's up, Frackle? I have to explain why I'm even in proximity with these people in the first place, right? Because I'm not a rookie to YouTube. I'm not a rookie to Twitch. I'm not a rookie to Facebook. I've been a YouTube content consumer in terms of like, and I've said this to Frackle before. I'm an old school YouTuber. My some of my favorite YouTube content is legit the old school YouTube of people with their smartphone just talking into the camera. No cuts, jump cuts maybe, just vlogging, literally. That's my shit. I love that shit. So when it became essays, naturally that was awesome. And I, like a lot of people, became inculcated in that culture during a period of time when there was a little bit of, we'll say, social upheaval. There was Occupy, but aside from that, there was the whole anti-SJW movement. You remember those days? Yes, Kevin, I'm sure. Yes. So you also remember people like, The Amazing Atheist and Captain Awesome and Pat Condell, Stefan Molyneux. I'll say this too, and I've said this before. Stefan Molyneux, I probably would never have claimed anarchism like as an official political philosophy if not for Stefan Molyneux. And I say that, and people are always shocked by that, but when Stefan Molyneux first dropped, The Story of Your Enslavement, that YouTube video was like fucking, was like, when you're a teenager and you have atheism, or excuse me, when you have Freudian slip, when you have anarchism as an aesthetic, right, as like a young punk or a metalhead like I was, where you're wearing this aesthetically, and because you're an angsty teenager or whatever, you have these loose politics, you have this loose feeling, but you can't tie it to anything official, right? And of course, all the adults around you are telling you this is something you're going to grow out of, right? Until you finally find an adult who says, not only is this a valid feeling, but there's actual, official stuff behind it. Anarchism is a legitimate philosophy, right? It's going to be alluring as fuck. Gamergate Blue, I bypassed Gamergate. I was not a part of Gamergate. I was blissfully unaware of Gamergate until after the fact. But you remember the Amazing Atheist from his days in that guy with glasses? Yes. Thank you for the follow, Mizumi. What's up, Evelyn? Used to watch you on YouTube for your egg cracked. Oh, Evelyn, I was there with you for that. We used to watch the same shit. We consumed the same content, so I know you know where I'm coming from. So we have the same like level of extremes, right? Except I'm black and now I'm the pro black guy, and you are who you are. You know what I'm saying? But from the Alec raid, thank you. So, like I was saying, the reason why I ended up in this space is because I say that to set the stage for why algorithmically I was set up for how I was set up. Because if you see my YouTube channel now, Endless Cemetery, I have like hundreds. I'm subscribed to hundreds of channels. Emote, thank you. I'm subscribed to hundreds of channels on YouTube. And a lot of those channels have been dead for years, like over a decade at this point. So algorithmically, my shit was already primed in terms of the realm of internet leftism. My shit was already primed to just find the white people, to just find the liberals, right? So that's how my horse blinders, as far as the path content wise that I decided to go down, occurred, right? Because I thought that the way to success politically on these platforms was to do hippy dippy. If you weren't already somebody famous like Hassan, then the way to get famous is to either be super nice at some video game, which is how I ended up doing all of the championship shit I did in Mortal Kombat 11. For people who don't know, I'm literally like ranked nationally in Mortal Kombat 11. I wouldn't say I'm one of the top 10 Jax players in the world, but I am one of the best Jax players in Mortal Kombat 11. I assumed that was one of the ways, but I ran into a conundrum in the midst of me going on that crusade, which was I became afraid to talk about politics because I didn't want to scare off any of my audience, because I wasn't sure that they were aligned with me politically. So when I wanted to, what up, Big Richie Lizzie? Shout out to Big Richie Lizzie. Thanks for the dono as well. So when I decided to lean into politics, I thought that the way that you did that was to do, like I said, if you weren't already famous for politics, to do like hippy dippy or something, this debate bro type of content. Because, what up, Algal? Thank you, Algal. Thank you, Kevin. So, that said, what was I saying? Oh, yes. So, I had always known that I wanted to make educational content. Like Algal said, there's a lot of people who are in my audience who I gained, like followers that I gained from my content when I was streaming during the George Floyd protests here in Baltimore in 2020. Some of you know that I did that, but for those of you who don't know, that was essentially my introduction on this channel into politics. Because I am who I am, I wear my politics on my sleeve. That was always in my content in terms of my streaming just being me going live when I play video games with really no aim and no goals. But I didn't start putting politics in the forefront of my content, as in, like, I didn't decide that I wanted to try to start reaching a mass audience preaching the ideals of communism and anarchism until I did that. So, um, in terms of my radicalization, that's a little bit different conversation because it comes from two other major events in my life that I feel like are unique to a person in my perspective that I can talk about here. And if I'm dragging this bit of the conversation on, I apologize, but it's really important to me to lay this foundation so that you understand the motive behind my actions and why I did things the way that I did leading up to now. So, the first event that happened to me that radicalized me, obviously, like a lot of black people, I went to jail. Um, hang on. The first time I went to jail, thank you, Frackle. The first time I went to jail was for something that is literally not even illegal in the state anymore. The first time I went to jail, I, to make a very long story short, obviously I consume cannabis. This is not a secret. Um, there was a period of time when that was prohibited in the states. Maryland was still a prohibition state. We were still in the process of doing the whole medical thing. This was in the year 2000. I want to say either 2009, 2000, probably 2010 is more accurate. So, long story short, we were outside smoking some reefer, got caught up by the police, um, and got pinched. Right, got picked up. They didn't arrest us, but they cited us. And the way that the law worked at the time was if it was your first offense and it was a narcotics offense and you had no prior violent criminal record, you could do something called the diversion program, which was basically just a 2-week rehabilitation class, and you get away with a probation before a judgment and nothing on your permanent record as far as charges or indictments or anything like that. If someone searches you in a judiciary case search in the state, they're going to see that you went to court and what you were charged with, but you won't have any, you will not be indicted, basically. And it was really just a scam so that the court could hit kids over the head with $100 tax whenever they caught them behind school smoking or whatever, on top of then returning to just lock them up later when they catch them again, because that's not how these things work. Thank you for the host, Fade. So, I had a failure to appear because they kept fucking up my paperwork for this diversion program every time I went to court. They would have to send me my paperwork, and because I had moved, thank you, I appreciate you, Fade, I didn't get the paperwork. I would go to court. They would ask me, how do I plea? I would say, I want to go to the diversion program. They would ask me, where's my paperwork? I would say, you never sent me my paperwork. They would say, okay, case postponed. We will send you your paperwork. We did this song and dance 3 times. I went to court 3 times over the course of a year, to the point where I almost went outside the statute of limitations for this. But what ended up happening was I thought my last court date was July 3rd, but it was June 3rd. So on June 4th, I had my door kicked in with guns pointed in my face and almost got my fucking head blown off, on top of getting robbed at gunpoint, essentially, because the officers just ran in my house and took whatever the fuck they wanted, right? That happened to me for a plant. For not any actual amount of a plant, because I didn't have any actual weed. I had a resi bowl, so I got charged with possession of paraphernalia. And if you get charged with possession of paraphernalia, you have to automatically get charged with possession. It's one of those like mandatory minimum type shits where it doesn't fucking make sense, but it's the way that the law is coded, specifically so that they can fuck people's lives up and charge them with more shit. But that happened to me. The second time I went to jail, I have an ounce on weed. No, I didn't even have. So first of all, I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even have an ounce. I didn't even have a gram. I had literally a bowl with some black shit on the sides of it. You couldn't get high off that if you wanted to. but they went through the trouble of taking it to the fucking CSI and literally testing it for THC molecules and everything. When I tell you that the state has infinite resources to fuck you, believe me. But if it's about equity, if it's about housing people, if it's about educating people, if it's about feeding people, where's that money coming from, right? So, furthermore, what up, PJ? True, res hits do get you a little high. If you're on like a 3-day tolerance break and you do a res hit, you may catch a buzz for like 10-15 minutes. I shouldn't say that. The Black Death. Anyway, so and when I was in jail, so I was already pissed off. And you see me, I'm a metalhead. You feel me? Like I had a Slayer t-shirt on. And when the cops picked me up, I had long dreadlocks. I would show you my driver's license picture, but I don't want to dox myself. Anyway, I had a full head of long dreadlocks. Like I looked like Waka Flocka. I looked like Waka Flocka. And when I got picked up, they said to me, because you see my accent, they said to me in the car, because I was trying to humanize myself to these police officers after they had just aimed guns at my fucking head and tossed me in the back of this car with no seatbelt on, handcuffed, while they play Tetris and fuck around on the computer and drive at the same time. I was like, yeah, I know I kind of look like a hoodlum in my driver's license picture, but I don't know if the whole gun thing was necessary. And the police officer says, you know, we weren't expecting you to be a hoodlum, but we definitely weren't expecting to see you in a Slayer t-shirt. And they both giggled. And I went, oh, that's cool, because I didn't expect you to get more than C's in high school. Then that's when I got thrown in solitary. But anyway, I was already pissed off by that. But then what radicalized me even further once I was already in there was, like I said, they threw me in solitary for a minute. It wasn't this wasn't that bad at first. So they had me in the drunk tank, but I was just by myself in there. Um then when they put me in just like holding before I talked to the commissioner, the cell was a regular cell, but there was like 4 of us in there. So there was 2 people in the cot, and then I was sitting on the floor, and another dude was standing leaned up against the wall. And they put this other dude in there with us. So we were 5 deep. But the dude that they put in there with us, they had just beaten the absolute dog shit out of and doused with mace. When I say he was doused with mace, I mean, he obviously had a fucked up eye and shit. Like, he had cuts and bruises from a scuffle. But his tank top, orange. They maced him so bad, he pulled his shorts down to show us his drawers. His fucking drawers were orange from all the OC spray they sprayed him with. He was standing in the sink trying to fucking get it off of him. It was so much when he started doing that, because that's not what you do when you get sprayed. The fumes from that, the whole cell, we couldn't breathe. We were up against the bars, putting our noses out the bars and shit because we couldn't fucking breathe in there, right? So that was my first experience in jail. My second experience in jail happened because I caught a shitload of tickets coming from PG, driving on a suspended license. Caught an FTA behind that because I was not making enough money at the time to pay all of those tickets and then renew my license. But I was a pizza delivery driver. So what the fuck was I going to do? Not drive? Just sit there with my thumb up my ass? So of course, I get caught. And naturally, when I get picked up, the officer is pissed off because he asked me, is there anything in the car that I should know about? And I just look at him like dumbfounded. Like, why the fuck would I do your job for you? Why the fuck would I snitch on myself? So of course he's pissed off and is searching my car, throwing my CDs on the ground, stomping on them, scratching them all up and shit. Puts me in not just in the drunk tank in solitary, but throws me in this cell that's shit smeared. So I can't lay down, I can't sit down because I don't want to touch anything because there's shit smeared all over everything. And I'm in there for 12 hours because they forgot about me. I see a commissioner. The commissioner tells me because I've already had one prior FTA, I'm a flight risk. Even though my offenses, not a single one of them is violent. But because I'm a flight risk for already having a prior FTA, she didn't even look at me. Didn't even look me in my eye. Never looked up from her desk or my paperwork. My jaw hit the floor. She says $3,000 bail. Take your ass back downstairs to jail. So I'm sitting in jail, and this time the cell is 8 deep. Not 5, 8, right? I'm sitting up against the wall on the floor with my knees in my chest like this. Right? Because there's no fucking room in the cell. Handcuffed still, right? They take me to the for-profit prison out in Towson called Baltimore Detention Center. So one of the former governors or mayors or something owns the prison. It's the most corrupt imaginable shit you could think of. But I'm out there. The dude that I link with, because I've never been to jail like this. So the dude that I link with, wouldn't you know it, he's also in there for driving on a suspended license. Missed a child support payment. They suspended his license, but he drove a work truck for a living. So what the fuck is he going to do? Not go to the job site? The irony that he told me was that someone told him his brake lights were out. And anyone, if you black, you already know. And if you're a real leftist, you already know. A leftist who is well versed in police brutality and so on and so forth. But if you don't know, I'm going to explain it to you. In certain parts of this country, if your car is not in primo shape, you are going to get pulled over. You are asking for it, right? The police are literally looking for these types of vehicles. They're looking for poor people's vehicles who are in disrepair. People with taillights out, headlights out, dents, scrapes, mirrors ajar, that type of stuff, to pull them over, to ticket them, or search them. Just go ahead and search them. And if it's Baltimore, plant drugs on them and take them to jail. So I'm in jail with this dude. While I'm getting processed, there's this guy. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Doom. There was a scene in the movie Doom where the dude knew that he was turning into a zombie. So he unalived himself before he could fully turn. He bashed his head against this glass door until his skull cracked. And it dented his brain in, and he and there is a schizo guy, I guess, that the COs didn't give a fuck about. They were calling him annoying and making fun of him and shit. And it was a mentally ill person who was obviously in crisis, bashing his own shit against the solitary door, the window, blood all in the door, blood dripping all down his shit, screaming. I start freaking the fuck out because I'm like, help this man. You know what I'm saying? No shot. They finally process me. I get on a tier, right? They finally walk me down a tier with my little cot after they shoot me up with God knows what. That's another aspect I'll talk about once I do my medical apartheid stream, the medical experimentation on prisoners. They shoot you up with the shit that they tell you is a tuberculosis test, because apparently tuberculosis is a new AIDS in jail, which is just as a sidebar, this whole shit with people being unsafe in jail with COVID and disease spreading in jail is not unique to COVID. This shit ain't new. But there could be who knows what in that shit. They could have fucking sterilized me, and I would have no clue until I tried to start having kids. That's what they've done that in jails more times than I could tell you. And if you think I'm bullshitting, Google it. In fact, you don't even have to Google it, because we'll talk about that when I do my medical apartheid stream next month. But anyway, they shoot me up with whatever this shit is to see if I have TB or whatever else this is the intent of this shot. Strip me, give me my jumpsuit and my cot and my blanket, and then put me on a tier. And just as a funny little sidebar, I kind of kept to myself because I am the rare black person who does not know how to play spades. So I didn't want anybody to find out that I didn't know how to play spades, because I was scared shitless of. It's funny in retrospect, but whatever. But I get in the cell, and my cellie is a dope fiend, right? and he is fiending the fuck out in this cell, right? He is shivering on the cot, sweating so bad the sweat is pouring off of him. I've never seen anybody sweating that much. He's getting up every like 10, 15 minutes to throw up in the toilet in our cell. And I'm like, help this man. This man doesn't need to be in fucking jail. He needs help. But if you do that, who's going to make money off of him? So that is when I abandoned any notion of liberal politics. In the year 2016, coincidentally, the year that Trump got elected. And then on J20, I watched a bunch of my close friends catch felonies and almost do football fucking numbers, right? Because they wanted to stand in the street in DC during the president's inauguration and fucking be in the presence of someone who busted a car window. And then they all got kettled and arrested. So that is the extent of my radicalization. If you ask a lot of people, I feel like they would tell you it's Trump. It was Trump. 2016, Trump. Maybe a little bit earlier, maybe the campaign leading up to Trump, but it's Trump. They're not understanding that the opposition have been losing their fucking minds and preparing for all-out war for the past 15 fucking years, right? They've been stockpiling MREs, weapons and ammunition, since the year 2006. Alex Jones has been spinning his shit since 2006. And I remember those days. Because I used to be I won't say an Alex Jones fan, but he was intriguing to me because he was insane. What am I drinking? You know what I'm drinking. So I'm pouring it in a cup just because there's like residual G Fuel in the cup. And the G Fuel gives the LaCroix that little extra twang. You know what I'm saying? That makes it. You feel me? Just sidebar, really quick. This is the combo right here. The pink drip G Fuel with the Past Tech LaCroix. Can't lose. Be careful though, because if you pour this powder in the can, this shit will explode. So you got to mix it in a cup, and you got to do it slow. What up, Anubis? I do. You know I love the pink. Hey, Endless Cemetery loves the pink. Cheers. So, now that we have all of that preface out of the way, let's get into me saying that I'm deeply sorry for not being more discerning in terms of how this is used. Like I said, the reason why I appeared on Hippy Dippy and all that was because I thought that was the way to mass appeal or a mass audience in the realm of politics. Not realizing I was making a crucial mistake that I'd already made one time and didn't learn from that same year, actually. So, and it's relevant to the conversation too, because I'll cover that briefly as well. But no, it's an easy trap to fall into. It is. No off top on this stream on Endless Cemetery, you will not see me engaging in good faith with any Nazis, with anybody Nazi adjacent. You will barely see me engage with pedestrian conservatives in good faith, right? And that's if you even see them appear on this channel at all, because why would I do that? What do you guys have to gain from that? It doesn't help you. It doesn't benefit me. It's entertainment for me talking shit to Nazis and shit, but that doesn't put food in anybody's mouth at the end of the day, which is politically my aim, right? So, and this is what I want to get into, because I try to be open-minded about the diversity of tactics and that whole conversation, right? But it becomes very fucking frustrating to me when people who fall in the I don't even want to say fringe, when people who decide that they would like to work outside of the realm of electoralism or the like non-profit hierarchy or whatever are disregarded as tankies or unhinged or whatever, right? Revolutionaries are not taken seriously, even though revolutionary politics are what's necessary. So, with that said, my motivations were selfish, just like I will admit here, I will say right here, a lot of things that you will not hear a lot of the people in this debate space say. I'm going to say it right now. I was looking for clout because my mindset at the time was just like with Hassan, right? If I amass an audience that large, if I can accrue that much funds, like I'm sure Hassan does a lot of good with what he does and what he has, but if I had $2 million disposable income, fam, are you fucking kidding me? There would be a Black Panther headquarters in this fucking... I won't get too far into that, but I will say that was the motivation for me. I wanted a mass audience because I wanted access to those resources, right? Which is, in the grand scheme of things, not unreasonable. What up, Reef? So I wasn't looking to demonstrate knowledge. I wasn't looking to dunk on anybody. I didn't give a fuck about none of that goofy shit. I legit wanted to amass an audience that I could spread the ideas of black power and dual power and communism and anarchism to, and get the resources from to do the mutual aid that's being done in my community, right? Hit up Food Not Bombs. Hit up Tubman House. Holler at Eddie Conway really quick and say, hey, you guys community garden, guess what? You guys are funded through the next 5 years now, right? Do that kind of stuff. So, it gets extremely fucking frustrating to me when I see people level valid criticisms of the whole debate model as platforming the shittiest imaginable people, literally for clicks and content. The people who point that out are dismissed as clout chasers. It's kind of really fucking weird to me. And you know what? I'm going to bring it back a little bit because I'm 32 years old and I've been struggling with like emotional regulation, especially about things I'm very, very passionate about. Because when you're a black man living in America, people are constantly trying to tell you what is black and what is a man. And in between there is the notion that you aren't allowed to have feelings because it doesn't fucking matter how you feel. So I feel like that's why a lot of black men have very toxic relationships with their own emotions. But past that, I'm also going to try to present things in the form of inquiry so it doesn't seem like I'm pointing fingers, right? So it doesn't seem like I'm trying to cancel people for clout, I guess. So, with that said, before I tackle this Danabo shit and this Destiny shit, I want to tackle the Stardust shit because it's really fucking annoying. And the whole Brit from Politically Provoked shit, because I don't know, did you guys see have you guys seen my exchange with Brit from Politically Provoked? You guys have all seen that? With Taj? Oh yeah, so no, so there was more than that. That was when I first met her, and that was how I became aware of her and interacted with her. But um most recently, over the course of the last week, while I've been in convalescence, for those who don't know, last Tuesday I had all four wisdom teeth removed. I had to get put under to do it. I was real fucked up from it for like 2 or 3 days. I couldn't really speak as much, so I just decided to I was hosting the homies during that period of time. I hosted Boy Meets Mini a lot. Shout out to Boy Meets Mini. If you're not already following Boy Meets Mini and you enjoy communist, socialist content and racing, follow him. He's got really, really good stuff in both. But um, I was going ham on Twitter. I was spinning the fucking block on Twitter because I was looped out on painkillers, and I was getting frustrated. I was honestly tired of the diplomacy. I was tired of I got tired of pretending to entertain and be friends with people like Stardust, people like CTV. You know what I mean? These types of folks. So, um, I saw Brit going at it because I followed Brit after that conversation because I made the mistake of entertaining Brit in good faith. And this is part of the reason why you don't engage with Nazis in good faith, right? I was under the impression that Brit didn't know what she was talking about and that Brit was misguided. And we know that's bullshit now for a few different reasons. But um what happened was she posted, I forget what she posted something, and I replied to it with Brit is deep in the woods fash. Yeah, she is. And it's weird because I don't know if it was you I was having a conversation. Oh, it was you I was talking about. Or no, it might have been Kev. I can't remember. But we were talking about how there's like a gradient of shittiness, and she's probably like the most liberal fascist. You know what I'm saying? Like the gradient of like we'll say the gradient of like Lauren Southern to like David Duke. You know what I'm saying? Like the level of imminent danger this person presents. They're all shitty and they're all Nazis and they all should face the wall. But you know, and time out. You know what I'm saying? They should face the wall and time out and think about what they've done. But they there's a varying level of danger with each of these people. Have I seen that one? No, let me check that one out. See, this is the type of shit I'm talking about. This is the precise type of shit I'm talking about. Thank you for this, Frackle. This is fucking silly. Politically provoked. We would like to host a debate between a black person and a Jew on which was worse, slavery or the Holocaust. DM if you're interested. Now, why in the fuck would my black ass shuck and jive onto that fucking platform to tap dance and go back and forth with a Jew about which is worse, slavery or the Holocaust, for a bunch of fucking Nazis? And I would ask the same question of any fucking Jew trying to do that dumb shit too. Which tees me up to Stardust, right? Ooh boy, let me fucking. So, it would be. I mean, that would be fun, Big Richie Lizzie. Like, I would be. We would. You and I would both be entertained by that. But at the end, it would, first of all, not contribute to either of our political aims. But second of all, it would fuck my brand up, which is alluding to something that Danabo had said, which is something I can agree with, but I'm going to tell you why I agree with it and why I don't agree with it in a minute. But first, let's get Stardust out the way. So, to get off Britney, because we all know she's a Nazi. Whoop de whoop de whoop. If you haven't seen my Twitter mentions are now fucking flush with Nazis because I challenged Brit on something that she said. I replied to a tweet of hers with, "So, do you not understand white supremacist propaganda? Or are you under the impression that all of us don't understand white supremacist propaganda?" And her reaction to that was to not reply to my reply, but to then quote tweet my reply, which is part of what people do when they're trying to control the narrative, which is really fucking weird to me. She tried to meme me about it and it backfired on her big time, and I'll get to why in a second. But matter of fact, I'll just pull it up. I'll just pull it up for you guys right now. But suffice it to say, the answer, she quote tweeted me and said, "Why does wanting a secure future for white people make me a white supremacist? Am I a white supremacist just because I don't want to become a minority in my own country?" And obviously, the answer to that question is a resounding fuck yes, you fucking idiot. But let's look at something really quick, because it made its way to Heem's Twitch. And some other, shout out Sharky, because Shark30 had also commented on it, or at least reacted to it a little bit, I guess. But it made its way to Heem's joint. Let me scroll down and find this shit. Here we go. So this is what sparked it all. Let me show it to you guys. I forget what, it's honestly not important why I said this, because I could have said this in response to literally any fucking thing that Brit fucking drones on about on her Twitter feed. But her response to that was obviously, "Am I a white supremacist because I don't want to become a minority in my own country? I have no hate for anyone, but I don't think a multiracial cultural society works. Wish it could, but it doesn't. So does that make me a white supremacist neo-Nazi terrorist?" And the thing with Brit is that she's Stringer Bell right now, and she's going to have her Stringer Bell moment, right? She wants to live two different lives. She wants to stand in two different rooms at the same time. She wants to ride the fence. She wants to fence walk. She wants to move through the world as a liberal, right? Because she wants to weaponize feminist idpol against people, kind of similarly to how Stardust does. I'm going to get to that. But at the same time, she also wants to promote white supremacy. So she says the quiet part out loud, right? But she has to pretend that she's not doing that. So she does this expecting like a chorus of voices to chime in saying, "No, you're not a white supremacist. That's a perfectly rational feeling, right?" But what actually happens is you get a sea of neo-Nazis who come in and say, yeah, you're a neo-Nazi, you're one of us. On top of all the actual lefties who look at you and say, yeah, you're a fucking Nazi. The only people who might fall for this dumb shit are, drumroll please, liberals. This got 628 likes, 3 quote tweets, and 37 retweets. So I ratioed the fuck out of her. And what followed after that was, like I said, my mentions are now fucking flush with neo-Nazis coming through with all manner of talking points that we've all heard before, you know. But so that's what prompted me to unfollow Brit and all of that. Politically Provoked is a Nazi platform. Brit herself is a fucking white supremacist. So don't fucking entertain those people. Don't converse with them. And I'm wrong because Nazis are not people, right? So there we go. You quote tweeted that, Leftist Sal. I appreciate you. Did I end up going to the march? No, I didn't. I was snowed in, and I'm still kind of feeling a little sore. So, oh yeah, Big Richie Lizzie. So, for anyone who doesn't understand the Stringer Bell reference, is from a show called The Wire, and Stringer Bell was an individual on The Wire who wanted to live two lives. He wanted to be a dope boy kingpin, but he also wanted to be a shrewd businessman. And those are incompatible lifestyles. And if you want to know what happened to Stringer Bell, you can either watch the show or Google it really quick. But I tell you this, Stringer Bell did not succeed in his endeavors. I will say that much. But now that we got that piece of trash out and gone, thank you, Frackle. Tried to go legit and well. Yes, exactly, Basic PJ. He ended up on the Suicide Squad. Yeah. He ended up facing the wall in timeout, thinking about what he did too. He spent a lot of time in timeout. But let's get to Stardust. Because I have feelings. So, you might have heard that dig earlier about me talking about people. Stop it, Fade. You might have heard that dig earlier about me talking about people weaponizing feminist idpol solely to try to cheaply win an argument, right? As a form of cop out, which is something I watched Stardust do literally in our very first interaction. The very first panel I was on, she couldn't fucking wait to accuse people of being misogynist, to the point where her fucking silly self literally said that saying that Kyle Rittenhouse should not have been in Kenosha is like saying a SA survivor should not have been on that date or whatever she did, whatever she was doing when she was SA'd, right? Foolishness. To the point where I asked her point blank, you're telling me that before you go on a date, you are function checking an AR-15? You're telling me you bring a loaded AR-15 on every date? Nobody wanted to answer that, though, because they knew how fucking silly that was. So I knew what Stardust was on. That shit had you heated, Rexky? Oh, I know. So I knew what it was with her from day one, because her takes on the school to prison pipeline too. I knew she was not a serious person from the get. And that really honestly clued me in to the fact that these debates are not serious platforms either. Um, so just like with Brit, I took pity because I want to reach out to marginalized people. Brit, because even though she was a white woman, she was still a woman, right? Obviously, thank you, Joe. Obviously, Stardust is a Daisy woman, right? So I figure we can at least have some intersecting experience where I can speak to you in a language that you understand, and maybe I can bring you to a different position based on that shared experience, right? Congruent oppression, we'll say. So, um, and Stardust was already embroiled in this whole platforming conversation before I even threw my 2 cents in, right? I just simply thought that maybe it was an issue of, okay, these are the loudest. Like I said earlier, revolutionary people are always dismissed as like tankies or unhinged or whatever. Not to be insensitive, it seemed like there were a lot of like, um, how can I say this without sounding like a fucking boomer? There are a lot of people who are in new territory in terms of like neo pronouns and gender, and there were a lot of people who, if you watched anti SJW content from back in the period of time that I was talking about, the types of people that they railed against, these people that were levying these criticisms at Stardust look very similar to those people. They look like they could be. Does that make sense? Does it make sense what I'm saying now? I hope that makes sense, because I don't want to disparage or impugn anyone in this conversation here. So I'm trying to speak very delicately on it, because the gender thing is something that I'm not super educated on. So I figured it was residual conservatism from that, because just as a matter of course, if you live in America, the position politically that you start off with is conservatism, right? Just like if you are a man, the position you start off with inherently is misogyny, right? If you are a white person, you start off with racism. And this is something that Stardust is well aware of. Otherwise, she wouldn't know that the feminist id poll is as effective as it is in certain scenarios, right? So this is something she perfectly understands, and she's admitted as much. I won't go deep into her history, but she admitted she comes from a conservative background. So when I first encountered her on her platform, and I had brought up the platforming thing, I had approached her saying simply, "Hey, I'm not telling you who to talk to. I'm not telling you why you should talk to anyone. I'm simply, thank you, Droplet, for the follow. I'm simply explaining to you cause and effect. When you speak to certain people, the fact that they are seen speaking with you lends them credibility, right? What's the quote? If you argue with a fool, people watching from a distance won't know the difference, right? And to quote Black Bloc Politics, what's the difference between someone who posts nothing but Nazi shit and someone who posts nothing but them debating Nazi shit, right? To a black kid with lead poisoning and no running water and electricity, that has to sell dope to feed his siblings because he is an orphan, the difference is the fucking same, right? So Sorry. So the hill that she chose to die on in that conversation was that, first of all, these people had larger platforms than her, so it was really them platforming her, and that's bullshit. I'm gonna tell you why that's bullshit in a minute. But secondly, on top of that, she made it a moral crusade, right? Just like with the idpol shit. It was her, she made a moral crusade out of, if this fucking Nazi has 100 followers, there might be 5 people in the audience on the fence. And if I talk to this person and there's 5 people on the fence and I reach those 5 people, then the whole thing was worth it, right? Her words, not mine. I would go back and find the VOD and play it, but I fucking can't be asked to do it right now. But if anybody takes issue with that, or if you think I'm strawmanning her position on that, whatever, then you fucking go do that work, because I'm tired. So keep that under your hat. Last week, in the midst of me deciding I'm hosting people, I'm going to host people, blah, 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 I decided to host Stardust. What's Stardust doing? I go to Stardust stream, and she's listening to some biologist talk about like Kleins and biological science. I ask her what she's doing. She says to me, I'm listening to this biologist so that I can learn counter arguments for when I debate race realists. Now keep in mind, she is Daisy, so I won't say that she has no skin in the game. But keep in mind that everything that followed was an interaction that she had with a literal black man who was born and raised in America, right? And has been dealing with race realists, we'll call them, because it's just a rebrand of race scientists, phrenologists. Me and my people, we have been dealing with that issue literally since they fucking brought us over here on the boat. And if it was a problem of a lack of information, that issue would have been solved 500 fucking years ago. And this is part of the problem I keep trying to explain to people, is that the reason why you cannot engage Nazis in good faith is because they are fucking liars. They are liars. Okay? So her response, or rather, so she's like, I'm listening to these arguments, so I have blah, 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 blah. And I simply say to her, yet again, with no hostility, with no, and because it was unwarranted advice, I guess she took it in a patriarchal way, which is, you know, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And when you're horny as fuck to accuse everybody of misogyny, I could see why she would take it that way. But it was literally a person saying, hey, a black anti-fascist who has literally engaged in anti-fascism is telling you what is effective when you're doing anti-fascism and what is ineffective when you're doing anti-fascism and why. And I told her, when you're engaging with phrenology, be careful, because it's archaic, thoroughly fucking debunked science. And a lot of it is debunked by, drumroll please, black scientists. So it's science that your average person is not aware of. It's propaganda that your average liberal is completely unaware of, right? It's scientific racism. It's fringe bullshit, right? It's a type of shit that you would only see on like Stormfront or in these quote unquote liberal debates, right? And I told her, be careful about doing that type of shit, because you're exposing these people to ideas that they might not know how to tackle appropriately, right? And just like the conversation I was having with you, Frackle, if you're going to have these conversations, they need to be moderated appropriately. And you're literally listening to a fucking biologist because you know in your head they might have something tucked that you have not heard before and will have no answer to. And you have already created the premise that the reason why you talk to these Nazis is because you might win 5 people from their audience, but are completely closed off to the fucking fact that these Nazis might say some shit that you have never heard before, or that your audience has never heard before, and they might win 5 people from your audience. And still, to this fucking day, no one can explain that to me, right? The best explanation that someone can come up with to me is that as leftists, we know the difference between right and wrong. So that football can only move in one direction. And to that I say, if that were the case, we wouldn't need to debate these Nazis in the first fucking place, now would we? And when I say Stardust debates Nazis, Stardust debates platforms Nazis, I mean I've literally, and I mean literally, not even just Brit, because we all know she's a Nazi. She was on a panel with a guy who had free helicopter rides on his fucking green screen. And Stardust is so fucking clueless. I promise you, she probably had no fucking clue what that even meant. And if she did, she didn't take it that serious. Why? Because revolutionaries are fringe anyway. Didn't apply to her. She's not going to be the one getting thrown out of a helicopter, so who gives a fuck? Meanwhile, this dude is literally starting a chant on the panel, all commies are bastards. All commies are bastards. All commies are bastards. Cool. Awesome. I'm learning so much from this content. This content is awesome. Big Papa Fashion. And I don't even want to get started on the Mr. Girl shit. I don't. Because I'll say this. The Big Papa Fash thing, her fucking around with that dude, the dude's name was literally Big Papa Fash. Here's the thing. I don't play with people like that. And the reason why I don't play with people like that is because I live a county away from the fucking KKK headquarters in my state. Right? I participate in Food Not Bombs. I've done marches. I've done all this shit. What the fuck kind of goofball revolutionary? I can't even put it that way because liberals watching will not understand this. The work that I do, the work that I have done is on the streets with the people, right? Food Not Bombs. I'm donating money. I'm helping people literally prepare food and serve it to houseless people, hungry people on the street, right? The most marginalized people in America. How the fuck can I say I advocate for marginalized groups, right? And then I turn around and I'm palsy-walsy with people named Big Papa fucking Fash. How the fuck would I look? Imagine one of the people I fed, if I was feeding people in Food Not Bombs, and I fed somebody on the street, you know what I'm saying? A Jewish trans woman, right? I feed a Jewish trans woman that got kicked out of her home because her parents didn't fuck with her for being trans, right? Thank you so much. You're part of the community. It's mutual aid shit. Blah, 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 blah. Cool. How the fuck would she feel if she saw me on the internet laughing and giggling with someone named Big Papa Fash? Huh? You say you advocate for me. I'm part of these marginalized groups, right? The whole reason we're even calling ourselves lefty streamers is because we want to ride this fucking Black Lives Matter wave from 2020, right? And yet, I catch you fucking around with Big Papa Fash on panels with people with free helicopter rides in the background. Yo, Josie, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks for the raid, everyone. I appreciate you. Big Papa lung cancer could eat a fucking turd? Yeah, well, he could face the wall and think about what he's done in timeout. But anyway, let me keep cooking Stardust. So, the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because like I said, we've already established that Stardust is a fucking silly person who is willing to die on hills that go against her own politics. She argues with herself because she can't just come out and say, I debate Nazis for content. I debate Nazis because I want people to think I'm smart. I want people to watch that shit and think I'm a Lady Destiny, right? Thank you for the follow. Thank you, Josie. Josie was also one of the few cool people from those fucking panels that I encountered. Shout out to Josie. But I'm gonna finish this off and then we're gonna talk about this tweet that Dan and Bo tweeted. But let me wet my whistle a little bit more first. Thank you, Paradigm Shift. Always good. More power to you, brother. I'm trying to my goal is to amass an audience of black anarchists, black communists. That is my number one audience. Look at a ooh boy. Monty. Anyway. So that was when I knew Stardust was not a fucking serious person at all. And Stardust was a leftist streamer in title only. But what broke the camel's back for me, the straw that broke the camel's back for me was because I fucking despise white liberalism. I wish I could express to you the level of enmity that arises in my throat. Like a visceral feeling of nausea and vexation that I feel when I witness white liberalism. And the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because like I said before, I don't want to get into Mr. Girl. I don't want to talk about Mr. Girl. I don't know who the fuck Mr. Girl is. I don't know about any of his content. I'm not familiar with him. The only thing that I know about that is that he is an alleged Smeeto, right? And all these dumbass debate bro streamers have made him famous. He now gets 1,000 viewers and he appears in my recommended. And I have no fucking interest in that whatsoever. So I will never fucking forgive any of those people for that, first of all. But the icing on the cake for that, the icing on the cake was when I saw Stardust retweet Mr. Girl retweeting a Martin Luther King Jr. quote. That was when I said, you know what? I'm unfollowing every fucking body. I unfollowed CTV. I unfollowed Stardust. I unfollowed Brit. I unfollowed everyone. Right? I unfollowed everyone. And so now let's get to this tweet that Danabo tweeted earlier, referring to someone as a clout chaser. So, hang on, let me pull this up. But yeah, if you want me to unfollow you, if you want me to not take you seriously at all, quote MLK out of context. Quote MLK out of context. Nothing will make me take you. Will not make me not take you seriously anymore faster than that. Well, there's probably some things I just haven't thought of yet, but that's high on the list. Trust. So let's talk about this tweet first, because it's very important, especially since we're on the topic of white liberals. Before I get too deep into this, let me address chat because I know I got a lot of new chatters and there's a lot of new people in here now and a lot of new viewers. Hi, I'm Endless Cemetery. I am a black anarchist. I am from Baltimore. I have I'm an actual leftist streamer. I'm not a debate bro leftist streamer. I am a real leftist streamer. I am for mutual aid, not charity. I am for trans rights. You will not see me engaging with any Nazis or Schmitos or any shit like that on my platform in good faith at all. My belief is that the only time you should engage with Nazis is in combat. You know, I'm not that. The content you're going to find here is all educational content. I talk about some theory and I talk about history, black history and labor history. I do video games, specifically fighting games and first-person shooters. And I also do mutual aid. I like to do fundraisers. I like to do protest streams. I like to just get out in the streets and talk to people. So, yeah, thank you. This is honestly one of the greatest. This is probably the greatest raid I've ever had. This isn't the best rate I've had numbers wise, but in terms of the audience and the quality of the audience, this is the best rate I've ever had. Thank you, Alec Gunter. Thank you, Josie. I appreciate all of you and I love you. And I am trying so hard, so hard to build a community that I can be proud of, a community of people that actually are doing real shit. But thank you for the follow. So let's read chat really quick before I get too deep into this tweet. Frackle linked Food Not Bombs. Get involved with Food Not Bombs. If you're a person, this is important for me too, okay? So a much ado about nothing has been made of, I want to get involved. What should I do? I want to get involved. What should I do? I want to get involved. What should I do? And I will say that questioning what people are doing is goofy. That is the engagement of liberals. Only liberals ask other people what they're doing, right? Because especially for people that are actually in the marginalized communities, like for me, I don't need to do shit other than continue to stay black, right? But I send money to Food Not Bombs, right? I encourage other people to send money to Food Not Bombs. There's other organizations I support. Last year for my birthday, I did for Black History Month last year, I did a fundraiser stream for the Reginald F. Lewis Museum of Black History here in Baltimore City. I raised like $100 for them, just me. Nobody else on the platform, whatever. But I forget where I was going with this. Let me continue reading chat. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. Okay, you guys aren't. Forklift solidarity. Yes, sir. I am a forklift driver as well. Online is a place to learn about how to apply leftism in real life, not clout chasing personality streamers. Agreed. 1000 fucking %. And this is what I'm getting into, okay? Literally, whatever extra money you have, whatever extra time you have, right? Because just like Black Politics said, actions are currency, right? Not just money. It's also actions. So you could do stuff like link up with your local Food Not Bombs organization, or your local harm reduction organization or, excuse me, whatever, and volunteer your time and energy to that. You could do that. Or you could just send them money. It doesn't even have to be a lot of money. Just send them $20. Local bail project. Yes, you could any type of jail solidarity organizations, any type of food not bombs organizations, any type of harm reduction organizations, any type of like queer refuge or like women's shelter organizations, any of that type of stuff. You don't have to get your hands dirty. You don't have to be in the trenches. If you're out in the suburbs or whatever and you want to help but you don't know how, just pick an organization and send them money. Not a charity, though. Solidarity, not charity. It's got to be mutual aid, because that's the only way to ensure that not only is that money and those resources getting to the people that it's supposed to get to, but also that you are building the community and not creating a dependence from the community on that charity. You understand? Because also, much ado is made about people's fucking 503Cs, nonprofits, all that shit, organizations, whatever, right? And I'm not shitting on that because, like I said, diversity of tactics, that has its place in the grand scheme of things. But that exists well within the system that we are trying to subvert. Right? So with that said, let's get into this whole platforming conversation, and let's read this tweet first, and then there's a back and forth here with someone else that I want to look at too. But first, so Destiny's initial tweet was, this had literally nothing to do with irresponsible platforming. Come to think of it, I can't really think of any harm a streamer has suffered from irresponsible platforming. To which Danabo retorted, I admit that I didn't think much of the, but he's referencing when Destiny got fucking clapped off of someone's like campaign because they were associated with him. Why did Destiny respond in this fashion? What was he talking about? Danabo said this, which is, I agree and I disagree, and I'm gonna tell you why. Hold on, let's get to all of it. How do I read the tweets above this? I think this is it. Okay. Responsible platforming on your channel is important not because of some nebulous harm it causes, which is wrong. I'm going to tell you why it's wrong in a minute. But because of the direct harm to your business. And this is Danabo saying the quiet part out loud here. This is the liberal shit right here. Donors, advertisers, and sponsors may view your past content and make decisions based on who/what is on your platform. This is especially true if you're a political streamer who intends to help campaign or run for office. For example, Omaha mayoral candidate Mark Gudgel, cutting ties with Destiny. Irresponsible platforming can and will directly impact your pocket and long-term goals. Even if you're a shitposting hobbyist that is creating content for fun and giggles, your online brand/presence is all but permanent, and it's important to think about how your content could be viewed and curated accordingly. When in doubt, adhere to normal theory. So, and I gotta say, before I get super into this, I liked Danabo. I did. I didn't understand why he was. I understand now why he associates with people like CTV and stuff, is because he thinks that the extent of political activity on this platform is trying to get engaged in electoral politics somehow, in a campaign, running for office, whatever, like he said, right? So, I had mentioned in a stream that was a different, it was, I think, one of Mr. Geek's things where he was editing a different debate. And it was, naturally, it is hippy dippy we're talking about. It was a bunch of white dudes talking about the prison industrial complex. Go figure. And I had mentioned in that conversation, referencing, because here's the other thing that I understood about Twitch, or at least that area of Twitch, is that all of those people, for the most part, are generally pretty well educated, or at least you come from a decently comfortable background in terms of class, right? Like the barrier to entry to streaming, to doing the Twitch debate thing is pretty high, right? Like I'm working class, but if I was unemployed, I probably wouldn't be able to afford to get over the hump to get into this the to the extent that I am, right? So the assumption in that conversation I was functioning under was that all these people were liberals. They were BuzzFeed leftists, right? The leftists who were in there anyway, right? And that's why they were saying such silly things about the prison industrial complex. To which Danabo chimed in with, "You don't need to read theory," which I agree with, right? Because to do things like participate in Food Not Bombs and those sorts of things, you don't need to read a fucking lick of theory, right? You just need to understand the needs of the community, how to meet them, and how to maneuver that into organization that can demand change for the material conditions that people live in those environments, right? That's all you need. You don't need to have read Das Kapital. You don't need to have read Revolutionary Suicide. That shit helps. And if you're already a leftist who is interested in that type of stuff, it's very enriching and very fulfilling, but is by no means necessary. So I liked Danabo off top, but I realized that where that take comes from is just like the place that this take comes from is just straight up liberalism, right? The idea that if I'm doing Food Not Bombs and the other members of that organization find out that I have Nazi friends or that I bandy about with Nazis on the internet and can regularly be seen engaging with Nazis in good faith and so on and so forth on the internet, they might not allow me to participate. They might ban me, right? And that would fuck my situation up. Beyond just being denied a position on a platform or a candidate's campaign, right? Danabo is British. I don't think it's easy to analyze British politics through an American lens. I'm not. This isn't okay. So when I say this, and I have to preface this with with when I say this, because Danabo has referenced himself about his experiences with racism in his country and his ethnicity, right? But when I say this, it's white people shit, right? Whiteness being uniquely American, right? A white person in France does not refer to themselves as a white person. They refer to themselves as a Frenchman. And this also gets into the conversation that Sharky sparked off about people not having conservative friends. And I want to get into that too, because I don't have conservative friends. I'm not interested in having conservative friends. And I don't care if you're conservative and you're mad about it. You can die mad about it. You and I are diametrically opposed politically, and I have the wherewithal to understand that the consequences of your beliefs could result in the death of me or my comrades, whether you intend that, whether you're aware of that or not. Right? So knowing that, why the fuck would I be your friend just because we might have the same taste in beer? It doesn't make sense. Sync L80. You were under the impression that reading theory is very important. Reading theory is not important at all. The more important thing than reading theory is participation. Get involved right now. Tomorrow morning, find out if you got a Food Not Bombs in your city. If you do, send them some money. If you don't got any money to send them, go see how you can help out. See if you can serve food. See if you can help prepare food. See if you can, do grocery run. Give people do whatever you can do. Doesn't matter. And yeah, Frackle, we've talked about the whole theory thing too. What up, Keyblade? You're saying the word liberal isn't as applicable? It absolutely is here, though, Wasted Design, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you exactly why. And it gets into it's not, and this is, I'm just going to guess, Wasted Design. You're either a centrist or a conservative. Is that accurate? I'm not going to pick on you. I'm not trying to throw shots at you. This is just a kind of an educated guess based on your. Nope. Okay, I guess I was wrong then. So, green voting Aussie. Oh, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so I was close. Okay, so when we, as in black people, we use the term liberal when a revolutionary uses the term liberal, we're not referring to people who fit into a specific category on the political compass, right? We're referring simply to people who stand in the way of progress but pretend that they are for progress. Malcolm X called it the wolf and the fox, right? Martin Luther King Jr., ironically, said it was the white liberal, right? The people who want to put a timetable on black liberation, right? We want to do this, but it's too revolutionary. It will cause too much social upheaval. We can't do it right now, right? We got to wait. Incrementalism, right? I want this done, but hands are tied. We can't get it done. We can't get it done right now, right? Because the right people aren't in office yet, or society doesn't agree with this yet, or whatever reason. There is literally any reason that you could plug in there to tell someone like me that the world is not ready for my politics yet. Even though my politics is literally stop killing us. That's it. So there's a reason why I refer to myself as an anarchist. Number one, because I do not engage in electoral politics. Right? And I can get into why. And this is, I'm hoping once I explain this, and I'm hoping I can explain it to you guys in a way that is succinct and crystal clear, because I got into a back and forth with the conservative about this on Sharky's tweet. Shout out to Sharky again, about some conservative who was super fucking butthurt about the fact that we said, no, we don't want conservative friends. Why the fuck would we be friends with conservatives? And he thought that we were making a moral judgment about conservatives, because this is another thing that comes out of white liberalism, right? Is the idea that there's good people and bad people, and that people are racist, people are transphobic, whatever, because they're bad people, or that people who do those things are bad people, even if that's not the reason why they do them. And because you don't do those things, even if you are not fighting against those things, just by the fact that you don't do those things, you are a good person, because being a good person is something desirable to be, even though good and bad are both completely fucking subjective terms, right? White liberals will put a lot of stock into being quote unquote good people. That's why they refer to themselves as allies, right? Which is a bullshit term, because I am not an ally to trans people, right? The police state wants my death as an ostensibly cis person just as fucking much as a trans person, just for a completely different reason and through a completely different avenue, right? So I would not refer to myself as a fucking ally. If anything, I am an accomplice. And this gets into what I was talking about earlier too with diversity of tactics, because in terms of what we would call political, the definition of political being action with the intent to further a cause to change the society that you're in, the material conditions of the people around you. There's shit that people do that they can't talk about because it would be snitching, right? Either on themselves or on other people, right? When we talk about anti-fascism, right? Just that alone, stuff like punching Nazis in the streets, so on and so forth, that shit is illegal. But on top of that, there is a reason why you've never seen the police bust a Klan rally. And it's the same reason you've never seen Batman beating the fuck out of Bruce Wayne for tax evasion. So, when I call Danabo a liberal in this sense, I'm not saying it as a slur, because I feel like people get really invested and get really butthurt about that. People on the far left just referring to other people as liberals as a slur. I'm not saying it because I'm trying to nail down specific policy positions that he has on this subject. I'm calling Danabo a liberal because he thinks that the extent of political activity for people on Twitch is getting involved in electoral politics in their area, on top of when he is confronted by people who try to inform him of otherwise and then let him know the type of harm that platforming these people actually does. His response to that is to call people clout chasers and say that they're just trying to call people out for like clicks or something, even though the reason why he platforms a lot of these people is literally for clicks. So the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. Yes, exactly, Frackle. And that's exactly why because there was a few quotes that I wanted to read to lead the stream off. And that's why I read that one quote from Anti-Semite Jew. For anyone who was not present for that, I started the stream off with a quote. It was from Jean-Paul Sartre's Anti-Semite and Jew. The quote was this: "If the Jew did not exist, the anti-Semite would invent him." And the reason why I said that is because power seeds to power. Period. Right? Let me get into a little theory. Let me get into just a crumb of theory, right? Let's talk about Maoism for a minute. And how that was applied by people like Huey Newton in texts like Revolutionary Suicide. So, and this is also going to get into how people fall under this liberal category, right? So, the mistake a lot of quote unquote leftists and white leftists who were more white than leftists, when I say white, I mean white ideologically, not just referring to a person's race or their skin color, right? I'm referring to their belief in whiteness and their adherence to that or their proximity to that ideological concept, right? That's what I mean when I say white or white liberal. So, the mistake that these people make is just like with people like Stardust who engage Nazis in good faith at the most extreme, right? Or people like Danabo, or maybe even Dylan, or, you know, some of these other people who still get super invested in electoral politics, right? And I'm open to correction on this. Like I said, my Discord is open. If anyone has any counter to this in terms of their personal beliefs, because this is not a position that I can be moved from personally. I have had too much experience in this to believe anything otherwise. So, just like how a lot of black people refer to themselves as black communists, but will tell you up front that Black and indigenous people, BIPOCs, were doing communism years before Karl Marx was even a fucking twinkle in his father's eye, right? This is something that I felt deeply in my life before I ever read the words to quantify it. So, the position for a lot of people is that there is I'll even steelman it. I'll go Molyneux with it. I'm gonna use a Molyneux, an old Stefan Molyneux chestnut, right? There's a gun in the room and it's pointed at you, right? The conventional feeling from even the furthest left liberals is that there's a gun in the room and you just have to wrestle control of the gun away from the other side, right? Whether that's, and these are people who understand they're so, these are usually, this is anarchists, usually they like ANCAPs, right? Who are this fucking close because they understand the gun analogy, right? They've gotten that far. They're this close, right? But they still don't quite get it yet. They think that if you wrestle control of the systems of power away from the people who have it now, away from the people who are using that power to oppress other people, then you can end oppression, right? If you get out there and vote, and you vote for people like AOC, right? You get people from the DSA or the PSL or whatever alphabet soup into your local electorate, somehow that is going to result in social equity, right? And it's a lie. I'm explaining to you why it's a lie. It's that lie that leads people to do things like get involved in mayoral candidacy and do nonprofits and all that type of stuff. Thank you for the follow. Because in their mind, those are the proper channels, right? Those are the official means of advancing political aims. But it's a half measure. It's what I want. We're looking towards the same future, but our method is different. Because they're also not really looking towards the same future, because here's the first goofy thing about that. And I didn't understand this about communists until I started to get into Mao and I started to listen to people like Black Red Guard and so on and so forth. Is that the anti-authoritarian shit is all well and good. A revolution is the most authoritarian thing that you could possibly do, because power flows from the barrel of a gun, right? First of all, you're not going to vote these people's power away from them. If you think that you could just vote these people's power away from them, you are silly, because they don't even have numbers on us and they still have control, right? And furthermore, they didn't fucking get that power by voting on it. So what makes you think, after everything you've seen, especially January 6th, that even in this magical world where you somehow voted power away from these people, they would give up? These people that you've seen stockpile weapons and ammunition and form militias for the last 15 fucking years. Those people, after you've wrestled control away from them, you've freed the kids from the cages, right? You've established Medicare for all. You have released all of the political prisoners, right? You expect all these Klansmen, three percenters, fucking Proud Boys, so on and so forth, to just sit on their thumbs and be like, GG's, boys. We gave it our best, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. These people have to literally lie to maintain their own ideology. So, beyond that, I have no delusions about the fact that I could vote my power away from these people in the first place. And even if I could, like I said earlier, if there's a kid right now who is an orphan with lead poisoning and a bando in Baltimore City who has to push dope to make sure that his siblings are fed, what the fuck does he care who I vote for? That's part of why this debate bro shit is so fucking silly too. I'm gonna go to food not bombs, right? And when people come with their hands out, I'm gonna tell them, hey, you know what? Sorry, y'all. We don't got any food for you today, but I got something even better for you. I got something that's gonna form a whole new wrinkle in your brain. Did you know that there's actually a difference between pedophiles and child abusers? And that pedophiles are actually abused too, because they have to suffer in silence with the guilt of their own preferences that they can never act on. Fucking foolishness. Oh yeah, bro. You're fucking you just got out of jail after a fucking 5-year bid because you couldn't afford bail. You got fired. You got no clothes. You got no place to live, nowhere to go. Sorry, can't help you. Oh, I know though. Here's a nugget for you. Did you know that you don't actually have any legitimate argument against incest? There you go, comrade. Hope you appreciate that one. These people are fucking, they're not serious people. And I know I realize I risk infrareding myself here by sounding like a woke scold or whatever, but legitimately, this type of thinking and this type of political engagement could only come from thinking that politics, as we know it, politics, is a spectator sport that you have the option to stop participating in at any moment. That's why it's charity, right? Because you're coming from a place of privilege to do more for marginalized people below you, right? It's charity. It's not mutual aid. It's not the community doing for the community. It's we have the resources, and instead of giving those resources freely, we're going to apply restrictions on them so that only certain people in these communities can have access to them first off, but then they're going to have a dependence on this charity because the conditions that created their poverty in the first place continue to go unaddressed. While we wait for the right people to get into office, these people go hungry on the street, right? And we pour all of our political effort into propping up the people that keep them in poverty and think that we're doing something for them because we donate pennies or participate in nonprofits that fuck them over and in the long run only serve to make rich people richer with tax breaks and shit. Tax breaks and shit. Reformism isn't liberation, it's counterinsurgency. Facts. Oh yeah, Frackle. That's gonna be memes for sure. Those are gonna be memes. I'm gonna use people's faces from their streams too. But but that's where I'm coming from. And I'm gonna take it a step further too, because I said I was gonna talk about Maoism. And I'm gonna tell you this, where that comes from. For me personally, politics is not a sport. It's not me voting and hoping for the best. It's not incremental for me. It's literally warfare. Once you understand the white supremacist and Eurocentric and, imperialist origins of the country, that includes transphobia, transmisogyny, misogynoir, all the intersections of oppression, right? That were baked into the cake of how this country was fucking founded, built from the ground up. On top of the fact that my fucking people, literally built all of the wealth that this country sits on and is still to this day the greatest fucking cultural export from the United States of America, right? Whether it be hip hop, whether it be fashion, whether it be whatever you want to say, right? Once you understand these things, you understand that politics, right? Oppression of marginalized groups is not a problem that needs to be solved. Marginalized groups were the problem, and the oppression is itself the solution. The state engages in active warfare against my people. And I don't just mean communists, because leftists have been enemies of the state forever. I literally just mean your woke fucking definitions of marginalized people, black people, trans people, gay people, bi people, queer people, immigrants, right? The state literally engages in active warfare against us. Just look at black communities. The police are literally an occupying military force in their community and communities here in America. In the inner cities, literally, they're agents of the state. They're typically, and when I say typically, I mean like 9 out of 10 times, they are not from the areas that they're supposed to be policing. They don't give a fuck about the people in those areas that they're supposed to be policing. They exist in a constant state of fear and anger and, by extension, hatred in the areas that they are policing. Right? The solution to every social issue in our community is to lock us the fuck up. War on poverty, war on drugs, war on undereducation, whatever new war on the American population the government wants to decide it wants to declare, right? They're not ambiguous about it. They're really not. So, thank you, Frackle. I appreciate you. Isn't all change except revolution incremental? Exactly, wasted design. So, that's where I'm coming from. The people that you view as your political saviors, your AOCs, your Bernie Sanders, your fucking Mike Revels, so on and so forth, I'm not going to take anything away from what they've done, because what they've done requires courage to do in the face of the system that they're in. But the operant phrase in that sentence is system they are in. At the end of the day, they still support the United States government, a government that has declared war on my people. And this is what Huey Newton talks about in Revolutionary Suicide. Just the consequences of my existence can result in my death, right? I could walk outside right now and for any reason, literally any reason at all, the police could just fucking kill me, shoot me in the streets dead like a dog, right? and not only get away with it, completely scot-free without consequence, there will be a certain section of the population who will applaud them for that. And the more perceived negative consequences they receive in the aftermath of my death, whether it be negative press, um, you know, removal from street duty to desk duty, which means fuck all because they still get paid, they still get their pension, so on and so forth. On top of the taxpayer then having to shell out money for a settlement after my family sues the state, obviously. Even those nothing measures taken against the police who killed me would be counteracted by the fact that there would be a GoFundMe 24 hours later with $500,000 fucking dollars in it for whatever police officer killed my black ass. And this is what I was talking to you about earlier, Montreal player. CTV has guns because he LARPs about people breaking into his house, right? I have guns because I live 20 minutes from the KKK headquarters, and I have personally shared a room with the head of the Wolves of Vinland. I have been, like I said earlier, certain political shit can't be talked about because it's snitching. But we'll say that when it comes to this anti-fascism shit, I think I'm a little bit deeper in the game than a lot of these people on here claim to be. So, with that said, I want to look at this last tweet or this last interaction with Danabo and the person that he accused of being a clout chaser. One moment. Sorry, I gotta scroll. Here we go. So here we go. Danabo saying, I work for a nonprofit that helps low-income families in my community. My online time is spent helping smaller streamers with their setups, discords, and promotion, and helping a few friends in the space. I'm so curious as to what I've done to be put in the shit vortex. And in fairness, I have not seen Danabo himself interact with any like overt Nazis. I've seen Danabo interact with CTV, and so I feel like I've pretty adequately explained why I would see any conservative as sus. And if I did a poor job of explaining that, feel free to ask me to elaborate on that, and I absolutely will, because there's absolutely nothing I love more than explaining why conservatives want to kill black people and poor people and so on and so forth. But that's basically it. Is I don't want to reach and accuse Danabo of associating with Nazis, because the furthest I can say is that Danabo fucks with really, really sus conservatives. But let's see what this dude said, and let's address it.
Change what your content is. If you truly believe in the community that you've built, if you truly believe, I don't know, Danabo's probably somewhere in this fucking like cesspool of fucking this vortex of dog shit down here. If you truly believe that if you truly believe in the value of your community, if you truly believe that you've created a space where people can feel engaged and can actually like get shit done, and you feel like you can like use that in any sort of fashion, change.
Okay. I think I get what he's saying, which is essentially the same exact thing I'm saying, and I've had the same exact criticism, right? I see here, this says opportunists, grifters, careerists, drama baiters, clout chasers, profiteers. I don't have an issue with any single one of those titles, right? I don't really know any of those, a lot of those streamers. I see Mr. Geek in there, and I see Dylan Burns in there. And yeah, Danabo can go in there. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because like I was just saying, from my lens as a revolutionary, and sure, dismiss me as a tanky, as unhinged, whatever. Liberals, we're used to incrementalists and liberals doing that shit to us so much that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. literally wrote about it. And the fucked up thing is, a lot of you will share quotes from those two about white liberals and think that's not about you because you do stuff like this. I do so much. I do this, that, and the third, X, Y, and Z. And just like R-Rated Rugged Man said, when Tim Pool did this fucking goofy show on his platform, right? I've done all of this shit. You're telling me it doesn't matter that I've done that because I engage in good faith with Nazis and platform people who regularly engage with Nazis? And the answer to that is fuck yes. It does not fucking matter. It truly does not, for the reasons I've already explained, dog. Me, as a black person, a person who is in the marginalized community that you say you're caping for, if you rep Black Lives Matter or whatever, right? First of all, like I said, if I was a lead-poisoned orphan in Baltimore City in a bando, born with no social security number or whatever, so the state doesn't even know I fucking exist, right? And I gotta sell dope to fucking keep my siblings alive, right? What the fuck does your nonprofit do for me? What am I gonna fucking fill out an application? Furthermore, all of your fucking political activity, what's that gonna do for me? I'm gonna go fucking vote? Felons can't vote. That's another whole aspect of this shit that gets lost in translation too. One of the most important fucking imaginable things. Felons cannot vote. Felons cannot vote. And that's on purpose. 13th Amendment vibes. Right? Just like I said, if the Jew didn't exist, the anti-Semite would invent him. Power only cedes to power. If you're not coming at power with power, any concessions you think you're getting are actually burdens. You're getting fucked. And you don't even know it. And you're not going to figure it out until you realize, hey, that the price of housing was $20. We could have strapped up and just took that shit over ourselves, but we begged the government to give us $20 so we could afford to buy housing. Now now that we can afford to buy housing, the landlords have raised the price of housing to $25. And now we're right fucking back in the same position we started from. Right? This type of shit. So, if you are going to call yourself a leftist, and like I said, diversity of tactics, if you do nonprofits, charities, if you do campaigns and that sort of stuff, there's a place for that. And there are probably people who are very grateful for you that you do those things. That's not the point. The point is that you are not outside of the system that created those conditions in the first place. And so by extension, you are enabling those conditions. This is why we say mutual aid, solidarity, not charity, is because we want the community to do for the community. We want to build dual power. We don't want to create dependency on charity. Yeshua, the Christ, the Messiah, the Anointed One, the living sacrifice. What did he say? Because he said solidarity, not charity, too. He just said it a little differently. What did Jesus Christ say? Give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And you'll notice that that quote was complete. That's it. The quote is not teach a man to fish, then claim ownership over the rod so that you can claim a percentage of all of his catches. Right? That's bullshit too. So let's see Kamazatsa's response to Danabo, because this is sus. I'm not going to lie to you. This is sus. Because when people ask me, what am I doing? Or when I get accused of clout chasing or grifting or drama baiting or whatever, that shit is water off a fucking duck's back. Whether you're a 5-viewer Andy or you are Destiny with 26,000 viewers, all laughing their asses off at me, calling me a grifter, blah, 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 blah. The organizations that I'm involved in, who gives a shit? Those people benefit absolutely fucking zilcho from anything that I do on this platform anyway. So why would I give a single fuck about what some debate bro calls me on Twitter, right? But I get the feeling Danabo might be a little sensitive on this topic. And so he has this stock answer queued up for when he gets accused of being this, right? And there was a tweet, Mr. Geek responded to this saying the quiet part out loud too, where he used the gif of what's his name from Zombieland wiping his eyes with money. But you have been one of the most blah, 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 blah. I'm curious why you take anything serious, he says. So there's that, which is a valid take, right? A perfectly valid take. But here's his response. Said, Jesus fucking Christ, not that I owe anyone this, because he doesn't. And that's another aspect of liberalism, is that you guys are not entitled to a conversation, right? I wish that the whole, we want black people to talk about the prison industrial complex, I wish that that was as silly or like going out of your way to do that kind of shit was looked at as silly as asking a black person and a Jew to come up on and debate which is worse, slavery or the Holocaust, right? And it gets right back into what I was saying with people like Stardust and so forth, right? You are debating, quote unquote. First of all, you're cramming, trying to learn all this extra data, right? Because you will admit that you're not well versed in the subject. You're speaking out of your depth. So that's number one. That's strike one. But you're literally doing this to engage with people who lie as a cornerstone of their ideology, right? It gives Ken Ham versus Bill Nye vibes, right? It's giving that. It's just as fucking silly. If anything, it's even that's less silly, because the consequences of believing in God, believing in a Christian God versus not believing in a Christian God, the stakes of that are so much fucking lower than, are black people humans? Should we exterminate all the Jews? Like, that's strike two. And then strike three is like I said, these people are liars as a cornerstone of their ideology. So, just like with Ken Ham and Bill Nye, the moderators do not decide the winner of that debate. The winner of that debate is decided when it's announced, because all of the people on both of those polar sides have made their mind up before that shit's even on the stage, which is why it's so silly. And this is another aspect that I want to explain to people who think that they're going to be somehow different, that they're going to do what the experts have not accomplished in 500 years, because they're the first person to ever come up with an argument that a Nazi will hear and not be able to say no to, right? So the harder you go, and this is the rubber band effect, right? We already know all the people in this Nazi's audience have made up their mind. They're not listening with the intent to learn. They're listening with the intent to say that their favorite Nazi is dunking on you, no matter what you say, right? Therefore, the more clinical, the more data, the more shit that you bring that you think you're going to landslide them with, just makes their guy look that much more awesome, because he defeated all of that. You brought all of that with you and you still lost. You're silly. So, but since I already explained this to someone else, here you go. I don't care to further interact with anyone who sets up stages to talk to fascists and alt-right sympathizers as equals, right? And I don't know about this one, but alt-right sympathizers is a well-deserved title, specifically for our best friend, CTV, to the point where I was informed when I was talking shit about Ashley Babbitt that he went to break kayfabe when he got so butthurt about what I was saying about Ashley Babbitt and how innocent she was, and that she, the motherfucker is literally martyring Ashley Babbitt. Now, you might chime in and say, but Endless, he's just playing a character. He might be completely different on the other side of the screen. And that's all well and good. That just certifies to me that he's a fucking coward. Because that means he knows the stakes and he wants to play with fire anyway. I was elaborating on a point about how leftists in the Imperial Core, he's talking about lefty streamers in America or the UK. Let's not get it twisted. The UK is also an imperial colonizing fucking, fucking mute this. But, yeah. I was elaborating on a point about how leftists in the Imperial Core are funneled through a pipeline of impotent reaction by the media they consume, as long as they have continued internalized bigotry and support for white supremacy. Now, when he said that, I knew he was spitting, because the first thing I immediately fucking thought of was the very first panel I was on, right? What was the very first panel I was on? The very first panel I was on was a debate about Kyle fucking Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse. The most nothing burger fucking topic in leftism. The most BuzzFeed politics fucking leftist woke talking point probably the entire year. And Frackle and I said as much to each other in a conversation after the fact. Frackle said that during the debate, during the panel, that the Kyle Rittenhouse shit's worthless to talk about. I'll say black people in America, there was a reason why we didn't give a fuck about that. It's not because we didn't think that he was a white supremacist. It's that we knew what was going to happen with him in advance, because what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse has historical precedent. If you think that there is no historical precedent in this country for vigilante violence against leftists, and then the state endorsing that, you are a silly person. You just don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know about COINTELPRO. You don't know about Operation Northwoods. You just don't know what you're talking about. So, whoops. So, yeah. And internalized bigotry and support for white supremacy, right? You don't need to be white to support white supremacy. You can't be a white supremacist if you are not white, obviously, but you can absolutely support white supremacy if you're not white. Case in point, fucking Stardust saying that Kyle Rittenhouse had every right to be there and challenging him on why he was at a fucking Black Lives Matter protest with an AR-15 to shoot counter protesters, which is what he did. Or I'm sorry, excuse me. Let me back it up. Let me encapsulate this. You have Stardust, who is moving completely past the question of why was Kyle Rittenhouse there in the first place, right? People like Doubleshine, who is white, so it's not, this applies there too, but Stardust, who is not white, if you're questioning why Kyle Rittenhouse was at a counter Black Lives Matter protest, which is what that was, let's keep it 1,000. Those people were there in counter protest to the Black Lives Matter stuff that was happening earlier in the day that continued into the night. And we don't have to get into about the people that were rioting or whatever that narrative is. We don't have to talk about what their motive is, because we know what Kyle Rittenhouse's motive is. He was there literally with the militias. He was there with the 3%ers. He was there with the Oath Keepers, right? We aren't allowed to ask what his intent was, right, when he went there, because he has just as much of a right to be there as anyone else, right? And questioning his right to be there is akin to, in Stardust's words, it's akin to when a woman is essayed saying that she should have worn different clothing, right? Or something like that. It's people who are advocating for their own political and physical destruction and don't even realize it. In addition to talking about how the culture and content of debate Twitch does nothing to challenge this, and that this is the larger problem for people wanting to be part of substantial change, catering to the fragility of those benefiting from colonialism doesn't move us forward. And this made perfect sense too. I have to have this conversation in private with 30 viewers, because if I present this type of shit to Danabo or to a wide audience on Twitter, like this guy does, as what happened with this guy, you will be accused of being a clout chaser. And all the people who are literally only doing this for clout, clicks, views, shares, whatever, are then going to dismiss you as unhinged, clout chaser, whatever, right? So why the fuck, like, if you're a person, if I was brand new to this, I'd never heard any of this, right? If I was not aware of what mutual aid was, I hop on Stardust stream and see her talking to Brit from Politically Fucking Provoked, and I say, why the fuck are you platforming these Nazis? You're a fucking clout chaser. And her response to that is to circle the wagons and have all these people accuse me of being clout chaser. Why the fuck would I want to get more involved? Why would I? And that only benefits colonial power, that only benefits the systems that you claim you're supposed to be fucking fighting against. And he said, I even talked about a community can be manipulated to believe that their contributions through edgy content for profit in the jacket of progressive policy can lead to extortion that can't be punished, i.e., proles of the round table using money to open a brewery, right? Black Red Guard talked about this. You're calling yourself a leftist streamer, which means that you want to attract leftists. Leftists consist necessarily of marginalized people. So you're taking money from people who already don't have a lot of money in the hopes that you'll say something that they agree with, that you'll do something that will benefit them, and you're taking that money and using it to talk to people who want to fucking kill them. And of course, Danabo has to pretend like he doesn't know what he's talking about. Or at least I'm hoping he's pretending. Because if he doesn't know what this dude is talking about, then that just kind of confirms the whole liberal thing that I was talking about earlier. And of course, I chimed in with, I understood him loud and clear, to be honest. And Fade had me on that too, of course. But yeah, that was it. And because I've name dropped these people, I'm sure that I'm going to be accused of being a clout chaser, especially because I've added a few of these. I've added Dylan a few times trying to get his attention on, Maryland waves, because we live in the same state. Why wouldn't we link for content or something? Especially if it's in the furtherance of a political aim, right? If he has the same beliefs I do and I have the same beliefs that he does, we, like I said, diversity of tactics, he might go about it in a different manner, but as long as he's not going to block my progress, then cool. Yeah, I'm down to link. However, when you do shit like this, when you call people out as clout chasers, when you try to hide behind the work that you do, which first of all invalidates the work that you do, because it's not supposed to be for anything. It's supposed to be because that's what we're supposed to be doing, because that's right? So why you would pull that card anyway is very sus to me. But this shit is not helping, right? And it's these very same people that'll spin right on their fucking heels and complain about leftist infighting coming from our direction, right? Coming from the left, coming from the revolutionaries, coming from the people that they dismiss as tankies, purity testing them and shit. Meanwhile, like I stated previously, you have people like Stardust taking sub money from people like me in the hopes that it will somehow benefit people like me, only for her to turn around and talk to people who want to fucking kill me. And then when I call her out about it, her response to that is to be like, I'll do what the fuck I want. Okay, I do what I want too. And that includes unfollowing and unsubscribing from you. And the same thing with this shit, right? You're being criticized from the left. You're being criticized from the left here, and you don't have an answer to this. Nobody's questioning the efficacy of the things that you already do. They're telling you the cause and effect of this debate bro shit. They're letting you know the marginalized communities that you say you're doing this shit for are not going to fucking take you seriously if they see you doing this shit. That's it. And if you don't care what they think of you, that's cool. That's sus as fuck, and that puts you firmly into the liberal category because you're acting on behalf of people that you're not going to fucking listen to. But I don't know what else to say. I've been saying this shit. I've been beating this drum. I've been beating this drum since I got off the first panel. I don't know why my dumbass got on the second panel. I guess because I thought I would be opened up to a larger audience and they would get more actual leftists on the panel instead of just me and Alec talking to these fucking dumbass right-wingers the whole time. Because Stardust is a right-winger. Stardust is a right winger. Destiny is a right winger. Um, I don't know how to. I couldn't tell you Danabo's politics or Mr. Geek's politics. Mr. Geek is in fucking France, so it is what it is. Fucking Danabo is in the UK or whatever. I don't know his politics. I just know that he's perfectly comfortable dealing with people like CTV. And if he doesn't like CTV personally or disagrees with his politics, he's perfectly cool with his brand being linked to that person's brand in the way of their association with Hippy Dippy or whatever. And that's sus. Um like this dude Kamazatsa said in his valid criticism, as a revolutionary, right? As a person from these marginalized groups that you're claiming to advocate for, how the fuck am I supposed to feel when I see you associating with people who cape for people who want to kill me? And that's all I got on the subject, I guess. Um, it's not too deep, about a 2.5 hour long stream. I might cut some stuff up out of this. Got lots of new viewers, lots of new followers. Thank you for everyone who followed and chimed in and everything. I just realized I was not looking at my Facebook chat, so I'm hoping that there wasn't too much. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot in there. Just Evelyn and Sami. No disrespect to them. I love you, Evelyn. I love you, Sami. I'm sorry I didn't read your comments, but you didn't say a whole lot, so that's what I meant by that. But thanks, everyone. I appreciate your viewership. Thanks for hanging around this long if you're still here. If you're here from Josie's raid or Alex's raid or anyone else's raid, thank you for watching me. Please give me a follow. I am a real leftist, not a debate bro leftist, not a clout chasing leftist, not a bullshit leftist. I'm a for real communist and anarcho communist, anarchist, black anarchist leftist from the school of Huey Newton, from the school of the Black Panther Party of Self Defense, from the school of Mao Zedong's um, idea of, building dual power, so on and so forth. The content that I do in terms of when you come here, what will hit your eyeballs is most of the time me just playing video games and having discussions. Me talking about relevant topics, whether it's news or, popular media, whatever. While I'm playing Mortal Kombat 11, I am a world ranked Mortal Kombat 11 player. Hunt Showdown is a game I love to play as well. Really, any fighting game or first person shooter. Um, I do educational content as well, where I do straight up reads of the news and political commentary of the news. And I also read a little theory, and we talk about theory, and I try to break it down into some real life scenarios that you guys can understand them, and it's not so wonky and sophist for you guys. And I also like to get in the trenches. I like to go out in the streets, talk to people. The reason why a lot of people know me politically is because I was streaming during the streaming during the George Floyd protests in 2020. Um, yeah, that's what you can expect from my channel. What you can absolutely not expect from my channel is to see me engaging or talking in good faith to any type of conservatives or right wingers or Nazis or Schmitos or whatever, right? Because I am of the belief that the only time to engage Nazis is in combat. Nazis are not people, and we should not treat them like people. And so, yeah. Yeah, Fade Runner, yeah. Thank you, No Look at Flash. I appreciate you. Thank you, DC Metal Chris. Thank you, James TVJ. Thank you, Iron Mustache. Also, I'm going to do some music. I am a musician as well. I'm going to actually play a little music to play us out so that while I'm looking for someone to raid, we're not just sitting here in silence. So I'm going to play an original track. I'll play an original. This is a track that I wrote, I made, I produced. If you like my music, I'm at soundcloud.com/nightmare difficulty. Here it is. And we're going to see who we want to raid. Thank you, Big Richie Dizzy. And thank you, Wasted Design. I appreciate you. Oh yeah, you should probably know when I go live. I go live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York time. That's DC time. Thanks, y'all. That's all I got. We're going to see who we're going to raid now. I'll hop on the text after this. I'm just trying to unwind, so I'm not trying to stream any gameplay. I'm trying to talk with the homies and not be live. Because I'm going to need to say some shit I'll probably get canceled for tonight to y'all. So. Let's raise Sharky. I'm gonna raise Sharky. Oh, whoops. Alright, thanks y'all. Catch you on Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll see you then.